ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸಂಗೀತ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಮುಖರಾದ ಎಂ.ಡಿ. ಪಲ್ಲವಿ ಅವರು, ಬ್ರೂಸ್ಲಿ ಮಣಿ ಅವರು. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ನೀವು ಕಾಯಕ ಅಂತ ಕರೆದಿದ್ದೀರ, ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಕಾಯಕ ಅಂತ? ಯೂಶಲಿ ಕಲ್ಚರ್ನ ವರ್ಕ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆರ್ಟ್ ನ ವರ್ಕ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಕಾಯಕ ಅಂತ ಕರೆದಿದ್ದೀರ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ.
ಮೇನ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ನಾವು ಅಜೀಂ ಪ್ರೇಮ್ಜಿ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಪಾಡ್ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರನೇ ನಾವು ರೇಡಿಯೋ ಇದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಬ್ರೂಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ನಾನು ವಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಭಕ್ತಿ ರಿಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಚನಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ವಚನ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಎಪಿಸೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿತ್ತು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ವಚನಗಳನ್ನು ಕಂಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ, ಈ ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ಆ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟಿನ ಕವಿಗಳು, ಮೇನ್ಲಿ ವಚನಕಾರಸ್, ಆ ವಚನಕಾರರ ವಚನಗಳನ್ನು ಹಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆ ವಚನ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ದು ಒಂದು ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಲೋಗನ್ ವಾಸ್ ಕಾಯಕವೇ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ವರ್ಕ್ ಇಸ್ ವರ್ಷಿಪ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಒಂದು ಐಡಿಯಾ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅವರು ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ದ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಮಂಗ್ ಮೆನಿ ಅದರ್ ಬಿಗ್ ಐಡಿಯಾಸ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ವಿ ಥಾಟ್ ವೈ ನಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್
ಕಾಯಕ.
ಎಸ್.
ನೀವು ರಾಕ್ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಷಿಯನ್, ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ವಚನ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಒಲವು ಹೇಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತು, ಸಿಕ್ತು?
ನೀವು ರಾಕ್ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಷಿಯನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀರಾ, ಬಟ್ ನಾನು ಫ್ರಮ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಡೇಸ್, ನಾನು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ಟ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕ್ ಟೀಮ್ನಲ್ಲೂ ಇದ್ದೆ, ವೆಸ್ಟರ್ನ್ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕ್ ಟೀಮ್ನಲ್ಲೂ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕ್ ಕಲಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ whichever style ಕಲಿಬೋದು, right? And so from then I've always dabbled in different styles. Hegego from 96 I've been in a rock band, but ಆ ರಾಕ್ ಬ್ಯಾಂಡು, ಆ ಜಾನ್ರ್ ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್ ರಾಕ್ ಅಂತ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ we tell stories of Bangalore, we tell stories of our lives here. So it is very Bangalore in a sense, but it's the English version of Bangalore. As you can tell, I can read and write, but I'm not very comfortable speaking it. I can speak it, but yeah, I'd probably be disrespecting the language if I continued. But the important thing for me is I tend to identify with the meanings of songs, and if a particular piece of music or a particular poem or a verse has meaning that resonates with me, then there's nothing really that prevents me in some way falling in love with it and wanting to include it as part of some work that I do. And this perhaps connects back in some way to your question about why call the band work, right? Because I believe, people think musicians, ivella kalakararu ella yavaglu nimge partine ella. The thing is, it's hard work. It's hard work kind of being in love with a culture. Right? It takes work to put things together, to bring people together, to learn to play an instrument, to sing like she does. It takes years and years and years and years of extremely hard work. But for us, that work is also love. It's what we love to do. And so while it is work, it doesn't feel like work, but it doesn't stop, it doesn't change the hours put in. Right? So in some way, that's it for me. If the meanings are great, and if I can add something of my musical universe to them, that's what I try to do. That's it.
He's talking about years of work into music, and you are a trained classical musician. ಆದರೆ ನೀವು ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಮನೆ ಮಾತಾಗಿದ್ದು ಸುಗಮ ಸಂಗೀತದಿಂದ. ಸುಗಮ ಸಂಗೀತ, there is irreverence in the spirit of the genre. Irreverence na how did you navigate? How did you navigate your learnings from before?
If I may add one more piece of information about myself, I come from a family of theatre practitioners. Yeah. And especially my grandfather was one of the theatre makers who started doing street plays in Karnataka. So I come from the street play culture, which is totally irreverent and very, almost like questioning everything that's wrong or everything that needs to be questioned. So I think irreverence is a very important quality to have as an artist, but I don't think that needs to be showcased. It is something that, probably needs to be deep within us, so that we can, we don't need to bow down to anything just because it's up there on a pedestal. But we do bow down, like we do surrender to music. Like there is a kind of surrender that happens when you are almost in a kind of a, you can almost say like a meditative space when you're singing or you're practicing or you're, with the band, and, you hit a kind of a sweet spot. That is very, almost like a surrender to the music. But also, it's almost very, like, because of my theatre training, I must say it's very Brechtian, that you are also constantly aware and conscious of a reality that's outside your, meditative state. So you're always aware of the society outside and the, conscious of what's happening outside. So the irreverence comes from there, that you have to practice it. You have to be able to hold that irreverent note when it's required, but you don't need to show it all the time.
It's lovely. In fact, ನಾನು ನಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸಿಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ಎಂ ಡಿ ಪಲ್ಗಿ ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ದೇ ಸೆಡ್ ವಾಸ್ ಎಸ್ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ so much influence must be there.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇಬ್ಬರ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಬಯೋ ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. You say sings, acts and makes
My
films.
God. Yes.
ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೆ guitar player, singer, songwriter, music educator. Very matter of fact. ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನ ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೋತೀರಾ? ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೊಸ ಪ್ರಯೋಗಗಳು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಅದು ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ರೂಪಿಸಿದೆ?
Okay. How much time do you have? Yes.
I think for me, having the freedom to do this kind of thing, as well as, the rock band that I'm in, and I resonate with some of the things that Pallavi said about irreverence. One of the things about rock music is that it's built on irreverence in some way. But at the same time, when like even today, if you listen to some of the songs, there are little tips of the hat to all of my influences. So people really, listen or who are aware of some of the influences, will have spotted, hey, I think you got that from this person. So I don't know if that's reverence or just this thing about gratitude, right? I thank you for this influence. I thank you for this bit of magic that you put into me, and then it's going to show itself in whatever work I do, and I think that same theme of gratitude is what I feel, especially across the last few years, as you get older, and I've been doing this now with the band for almost 30 years, and I think again there's only gratitude to say that I'm still able to do this at this time and provide for a family and have a meaningful life. So gratitude, that's what it is.
So I've kind of slowly grown into figuring out what I want to do in life. Like I was not somebody who decided, okay, I want to do this, and I pursued it for my whole life. It was not like that. Things kept happening, and I kept figuring out, okay, I want to be a singer. Oh, okay, I want to also become, an actor, and things like that. And I've realized in the last 10-15 years that I think as an artist, I want to work in very good projects and work with great artists and collaborate. I think collaboration is something that I really realize that it's something that's key to my way of working. So in that way, I mean, one thing is important, that I have the thirst to learn something new with every new project that I'm getting into. So I mean, for me, that is success, that if I'm able to first of all land myself inside a project where I can learn a lot, and if I think that I'm better than today than I was yesterday, that's really the growth that I'm kind of looking at for myself. And this really helps me keep my artistic self alive, to work from project to project and find artists like Bruce and everybody else who was today in the band, and all the other projects that I'm doing. I'm deeply inspired by working with all of them, and I learn a lot. There's so much to learn, so much to explore, and that really excites me.
You're making very interesting choices. We get to see it from quite a distance, but we see that you're making very different choices, unique choices. What anchors these choices when you make them? Because is there ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಿಚಾರಧಾರೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಆಳ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಆಳ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬರ್ತದೆ? Because the instruments that you use, the artists that you work with, everything, it's a conscious choice that you're making, right?
Absolutely. Like she said, the learning thing is amazing, and sometimes it's a very, like even the musicians that were on stage today, there is a bit of intent, there is a bit of focus in terms you want to work with, but there's also circumstance. Like for the longest time we thought this gig was on a different day, and at the last moment we found it was actually a different date, so half the band wasn't available, and so another bunch of people came in at the last minute, and then I was swallowed by this whole thing that happened to my family. And so circumstance plays a massive role in many of these things. And again, I keep saying, as I get older, there is this whole thing about sometimes you have to also surrender to randomness. Things happen. You have intent, you have will, you have drive, you have a destination, you have a journey that you're thinking of, but several things just happen. And sometimes it's nice to enjoy those things as well. Sometimes they're not the greatest of things, but you learn from them. And like on stage today, it was interesting. I heard Pallavi saying, sometimes your rehearsals are one thing, and then on stage is a different thing. And if that on stage chemistry suddenly makes something more happen, it's like it's not just the whole is not the sum of the parts. There was something else, some phantasmagorical thing that shows up, and then you surrender to that and you love it. That's it.
You also work with a lot of folk artists. Our choices beginning ಹೇಳೋದಾದ್ರೆ, you're curating a lot of these cultural spaces.
Well, whenever I've got an opportunity to curate, I'm not a curator per se, but wherever I've got an opportunity to curate, I've tried to find artists who probably are very good and have not been, have not found a stage. That is one thing. And also about your question of, why are you making these choices that you're making about your work and all that? I think every artist probably, that's the thing that continuously is playing inside their mind, whether they know it or not, that, what is my work? Who am I? Like, I mean, who I am is what my work is. So then over a period of a lifetime, you will build a body of work. So then what do you want that body of work to say? I think that's, I guess everybody has that in mind, and they curate their own, body of work in a way that they kind of find meaningful and important for them to reflect on. So I think it's not one thing that, this is the thing I'm looking for, and if that is there in a project, then that is why I make the choice. It's not that. It's a whole lot of reasons why one would want to do a certain kind of work. But I think more and more as I grow older, like Bruce has been saying for the last few minutes, as I grow older, I think more and more, I think it has to be meaningful. Earlier, I would do a lot of work just because, I've dubbed for films. I've given my voice to other actors, which I don't think is actually, as an actor, I would not want anybody to dub my, but I've dubbed for films because I thought like, okay, technically it's a challenging thing. Like I would like to learn how to do that. So I did that, but it's not something I will like say, you should watch, that's my work. And like, I don't want anybody to watch that and say, oh, this also belongs to, but I've done so much work like that in the past, where just because I thought, okay, there's one little thing in that interests me, and so it's okay, I will ignore all the other problems that are there with that work. But that doesn't work like that anymore for me now. As I grow older, I think I want to be inside projects and do work which make wholesome sense, and they are all kind of rooted in some kind of a intention that I also agree with, and they are meaningful.
As artists, you seem to be aware of your responsibility as an artist. Art responds to society around us, our immediate society. When you read Vachana Sahitya, they are also responding to the social discrimination at that point. Jatiyate ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Do you see artists around you aware of these issues, aware of just knowing what the role of art is? That
Are you saying younger artists or just
around you? Yeah.
I think it's always there. There are always artists for whom this is important, is responding to society, and in a sense, there's also this line between artist and activist, right? I don't know if I'm an activist. I'm an artist, and if I may presume to call myself that, but and my activism, in a sense, is just the work that I do, which is I write certain lyrics, we make certain songs, and we choose to work with certain material because it connects with our belief. And some of these songs today that we played are 800 years old, but their meanings and their intent is still so relevant, right? And that's the power, right? That's the power of art that can, sustain across so many generations and so on. So in that sense, I think there are always artists that do that. It's just that we live in a world right now where this whole information pollution that we have and this just overload of everything, right? When it comes to media and everything else, they're hard to find, right? And the stuff that floats to the top is the stuff that gets the billion views on YouTube and whatever else and so on. But I think it's slowly changing, right? I think it's slowly changing. People are seeing the facade, the false facade that a lot of those things are, right? And I think it's a cycle, as with many other human things, it's a cycle. People, are very enamored by, just how good it looks, how shiny it is. And then after a while, they're like, hey, there has to be something more behind it. And those things keep coming and going. And if we're lucky enough to, be in a time and space when we see a lot of that happening, that's great. If we're not, we just keep doing the work.
Yeah. I think, I completely agree with him that, art and activism are two different things. I don't want to call myself an activist, only because it's not easy to be an activist. I'm not an activist.
That's hard work by itself.
It's a lot of hard work. Just by sitting and writing something on Facebook and protesting against something on Facebook, or going one day and protesting against something that I deeply believe in as a citizen of the country, or doing socially relevant art is not I can't be called an activist. They really dedicate their whole lifetime to a cause and work on it and all that. I know a lot of activists who really live a life that's very hardworking activists. So that's one thing. As an artist, I think if your art is speaking about your immediate society and kind of reflecting on some things that are there in the society, I think that is the work of art anyways. But it's not that that's the only work of art. There can also be art that contemplates on that something that's not immediate. Art can also contemplate on a work of art can contemplate on something that's outside outside the earth, maybe. It can be anything. So it's not that there is only this kind of art that's possible. But this is also something that I'm also very keenly interested in. So if sometimes what we do or what I do kind of seems like activist type, it's only that I'm responding to my world around me as a human being, as a citizen of a functioning democracy. That's all.
You're saying you're not activists, you're artists. There's a feminist critic who says for some women just writing is activism, right? Maybe just making music is activism for you.
Well, that's because that's a very different context. Yeah. Just writing for somebody who comes from a village, that is activism. Yeah, but I mean, I'm from a privileged place. It's making art is not a privilege for me. I'm born inside of art. Yeah.
Can we talk about your influences? What kind of literary influences have you had? Because I've heard that literature plays a very important role in contemplating the kind of art that you do. So can you talk about your literary?
You go first.
English professor is asking us. You better get.
I taught English for a while in college, so.
I've studied English literature in college, and it has always been a passion of mine. I loved reading. I used to read a lot earlier. Now, with my little daughter and my music and everything, it's become a little more difficult. But yeah, reading has definitely shaped my thinking and my life. I think a lot of reading has been because of Sugam Sangeeta, the poetry of Kannada, the Kannada poetry that I've been reading has really given me some kind of, every time I sing poetry, every time I sing these poems, I find new meanings within them, and that really helps me. And poetry from across India, it's a lot of these poets, Kabir, Tagore, Akka Mahadevi, Laleshwari, from across India and from different languages. It has been very enriching to, sing poetry, and through that to discover literature and writings from across India.
Yeah, I mean, for me, some of the poets that you mentioned have become new influences since we started doing this work together. But I in fact I probably have more literary influences than musical influences for much of my writing. And it's actually quite wide-ranging. I'm a huge science fiction, speculative fiction buff. So yeah, so I have a lot of that kind of work at home. Writers like Douglas Adams, Terry Pratchett have influenced my worldview to quite a degree in terms of not taking things too seriously also. But also writers like Tom Robbins, Salman Rushdie to some extent. Too many to mention here. I do read as much as I can. Poetry, everyone from Emily Dickinson to Yeats to all the stuff we studied in college. But now these poems, since we started doing this Vachana thing together, I've also tried, in fact, writing in that vein, and it's been really fun trying to to think and write like that. That's one of the things that I find really interesting, which is trying to get into the mind and into the work of someone I'm following for a while, and that's how I find I learn the most. Where I'm trying to copy, I'm trying to get their vibe, I'm trying to write like them, and then slowly, it's going to bend through the lens of my experience, and eventually it'll be something that I've done. But it's a good way to internalize and learn things. So yeah, it's wonderful to be exposed to all of that.
Because you make a lot of interesting music, you also have that kind of audience to support you, right? Could you talk a little bit about the kind of audience that you have and what do you expect from your audience? Do you have an expectation at all?
I mean, because of the nature of my work and the different kinds of worlds that I belong to, I meet very diverse audiences. Like today in BIC, we had a kind of an audience which was very receptive and very, but I've also traveled inside Karnataka to villages and small towns and performed Bhavagite there, where it's a very different kind of a world. I mean, they're also equally receptive. They travel many kilometers and come and listen to a concert. They are ready to stay all night. Whereas in Bangalore, after 9:30, 10, everybody wants to catch the last metro or go back home, and they have dinner plans. And so, I mean, cultures, lifestyles are different, but across different kinds of stages or platforms and different kinds of audiences, I think one thing is that if you can engage them and maybe weave a story through your performance, or kind of give them something meaningful to think about, or let them enjoy the moment and forget where they are, where they have come from. Every audience across the world, I think they kind of, you have them for that moment. That's the thing. I think, I don't know if it was Beethoven or I don't know who said this. A very famous composer said, the concert has worked, a classical concert has worked when the audience and the orchestra are breathing together. So yeah, I think that's what one hopes for in all audiences.
Yeah. Being an English rock band for most of the stuff that I do, but it's interesting that we played across the world, and it's when we play like in Europe and in the UK, one of the first things that people told us was that you guys aren't going to really make it over there because you're just doing stuff that they do as well. You play guitar, you play drums, you play whatever. But we've always found that the stories that we tell here, when we have a song about Meter Mill 1.5, we have a song about Brigade Road, and the way we speak and the way we are is in a sense storytelling of a different culture, of a different ethos, of a different way of doing things and thinking of things. And we've always struggled with that. How Indian are we? Because we speak English, we went to convent school, we play guitar, that kind of thing. But in a very real sense, because this is where I live, this is where my kids have grown up, this is where I've grown up, this is where I make a living out of doing this. In a very real sense, I am as Indian as it can be, even though I speak this language that came from somewhere else. So in terms of audiences, like Pallavi said, if you manage to find that path to just connecting, in some way or the other, and by the stories you tell, I think it's fine. Any audience, anywhere, and that connection is not always in the language you speak or whatever. Like there was a friend of mine today, she's German, and she didn't understand a word of what Pallavi was singing, but she was like, it didn't matter. And that's the point of music, right? It doesn't matter. The emotion gets through, right? And she was saying she was moved by some of those songs today, even though she didn't understand a word. So that's what it is. If you connect, you connect.
Thank you so much. We started in Kannada. We ended in English. It was my fault. But
my
thank
fault,
you so
probably.
much.
More than anyone else.
Thank you for your response. And we hope your collaboration with Azim University continues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.